So what's the takeaway here? Takeaway is if you want to look like Rich at 50, take Glynac. It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics, on testosterone, and on male performance. Subscribe to the channel, please. Hit the bell to get notified of all future content, and please like the video. If you like it, like it. If you hate it, dislike it, fine, but I just need you guys to like the video. All right, couple quick product announcements. Again, I put all of our digital books on the homepage. They're kind of buried in the menu. I mean, these are very, very valuable for people trying to learn nootropics, whether you want stack lists or to understand how to use nootropics to get better results. And of course, if you go to our website, we got a bunch of cool stuff ranging from Nootropic Stacks to high-level consultations on biohacking, nootropics, TRT, and otherwise. LiveCortex.com or down in the description of this video. Okay, so let's talk about Glynac, and let's also have a discussion about liposomal glutathione. What ultimately these two things are aimed to do is help you build higher concentrations of glutathione. Now, glutathione, as some of you know, and if some of you that don't know, master detox chemical, right? As you see here in the Wikipedia article, it's an antioxidant in plants, animal fungi, and some bacteria and archaea. Glutathione is capable of preventing damage to important cellular components caused by sources such as reactive oxygen species, free radicals, peroxides, lipid peroxides, and heavy metals. Basically, it is the master detox chemical of your body, and to make sure that you understand how underrated it is and how important it is, there's some research out of Baylor that suggests, that basically shows us that people that had really, really significant negative COVID-19 outcomes were depleted largely of glutathione, where they go compared to healthy age-matched individuals whose samples were taken before the pandemic started in 2019. Patients hospitalized with COVID-19 had significantly increased levels of oxidative stress and oxidative damage, hint to the long hauler folks, and markedly reduced levels of glutathione. Now, and the major reason I think glutathione is very important for brain function, for generalized kind of like healthy cognitive function, healthy cellular function, is because, we know that the largest insults to our cognitive function and to like great brain performance and to feeling well is oxidative stress. These are, reactive oxygen species, free radicals that literally go and inhibit proper cellular function at the mitochondrial level. You don't want that. This is why taking compounds like ALA and other antioxidants tends to make people's brains feel clearer, because you're dealing with some degree of oxidative burden. Now let's talk about Glynac. So Glynac is the combination of N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, and the amino acid glycine. Now, essentially what Glynac is high dosing both of them together to large-scale replenish tissue concentrations of glutathione. And what we're finding in research about this is kind of one of the newest sort of popular anti-aging things that does have a lot of literature behind it, is really, really impressive stuff like this. Glycine and N-acetylcysteine supplementation in older adults improves glutathione deficiency, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, insulin resistance, endothelial dysfunction, genotoxicity, muscle strength, and cognition. And this is the results of a pilot clinical trial. And the conclusion of this paper is Glynac supplementation for 24 weeks in older adults was well tolerated, lowered oxidative stress, corrected intracellular GSH or glutathione deficiency and mitochondrial dysfunction, decreased inflammation, insulin resistance, and endothelial dysfunction and genomic damage, and improved strength, gait speed, which by the way is the distance between your steps. As you get older, your steps become closer together, like you're shuffling, right? This actually, it's called gait speed. This improved gait speed and widened the steps of older adults. Cognition and body composition. Supplementing Glynac in aging humans could be a simple and viable method to promote health and warrants additional investigation. Ultimately, if it wasn't clear, what Glynac is doing is making you synthesize more intracellular glutathione, because you've got two building blocks, glycine and acetylcysteine, which ultimately make you make more glutathione in a way which is superior to just taking NAC by itself or glycine by itself. Now, I haven't personally tried Glynac in these high doses, which I'm going to get to, but I will. But I have taken, and I do somewhat consistently take, liposomal glutathione. Now, the jury's still out on whether or not liposomal glutathione is as powerful as Glynac in replenishing and optimizing glutathione stores, but there are research papers out there that show us very conclusively that you do raise glutathione concentrations with liposomal glutathione. I actually have one in front of me, no affiliation with this company, but it's a liposomal glutathione with phosphatidylcholine in it as the liposomal agent. And I take about 15 drops of this stuff a day. And honestly, I do notice after I take it, I'm a little bit clearer. My brain works a little bit better. Now let's talk about dosing. So in this particular research paper called A Randomized Controlled Clinical Trial in Healthy Older Adults to Determine the Efficacy of Glycine and N-acetylcysteine Supplementation on Glutathione, Redox Status, and Oxidative Damage, they go for a 1:1 ratio at the highest dose of 7.2 grams a day. So what that is you're splitting the glycine and the N-acetylcysteine in half and doing, 3.55 or something grams for each of them per day. That's just this study. Now, a good buddy and friend of mine, Rich Sheffrin, who is an internet marketer and an entrepreneur and a business person, but also is into biohacking. I recently had like a video conference with him, it was like last week or something, and we talked about Glynac. So it's been on my radar, but it's not something that I've extensively studied until kind of Rich brought it to my attention. And his dose is, and I may get this wrong, he's dosing 6 grams of glycine and 6 grams of N-acetylcysteine either once a day or twice a day. I believe he said it was twice a day, but either way, let's just consider it once a day. That's a high dose, right? 6 grams of each is what Rich is dosing. Now, I guess Rich is an interesting anecdotal, right? Because Rich is the type of dude in his 50s that can do anything under the sun insult wise and largely feel fine. He can take high doses of stimulants, he can drink in excessive quantities and largely feel fine. He takes a good degree of supplements and he does not seem to be sensitive to much of anything. Like, things don't seem to insult how Rich functions. Now, aside from making sure his testosterone levels are high, which I think every guy like above 30 should always be being conscious of, like, this is Rich's physique. I mean, look at the guy. Like, he's picture perfect kind of ideal shape that we should all strive for when we're in our fucking 30s, right? But this guy's in his 50s. Obviously, if you're in your 50s, you should aim to look somewhat close to how Rich looks. But again, he functions incredibly at a cognitive capacity. He functions incredibly at a work capacity, at an output capacity, and the guy is just an absolute beast. And again, he's dosing Glynac and has been for a while every day in high doses. Back to this paper, again, 7.2 grams a day with a 1:1 ratio. Again, that's like 3.5 or 3.56 or whatever that ends up being grams of each did raise serum glutathione concentrations pretty significantly. So you could dose 3.5 grams of glycine and 3.5 grams of N-acetylcysteine and get a pretty marked response in the improvement in glutathione. Now, in the major paper on this, which describes all these positive benefits on oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, insulin resistance, endothelial function, genotoxicity, muscle strength, cognition, all these really great things, it doesn't actually show us the dose that they were using in this particular, paper or study. But I would wager it's in the 3.5 grams each or more dose range. I want to cut to a YouTube video on this, which by a guy named Conquer Aging or Die Trying, which explains some of the results of some of the studies on Glynac, just to give you kind of a better idea of what's going on.
Genotype was C57 Black 6J, which if you've watched my other videos or more recent videos, that animal genotype was also used in some of the calorie restriction, fasting, and circadian alignment studies. And then in green, we've got the mice that were supplemented with the regular diet plus glycine plus N-acetylcysteine. And again, also 16 mice, 8 males and 8 females. And then supplementation was started at 65 weeks, and they used a dose of glycine and N-acetylcysteine that will be similar to what was used in their human studies. So 1.6 milligrams of each glycine and N-acetylcysteine per gram of food. All right, so what was the impact on survival? So for that, we look at median survival, which is the time when half the colony has died and half is still alive. So that's 8 mice for the control group as shown there. And then we can see a significant increase for median lifespan in the glycine plus N-acetylcysteine supplemented groups, 24%, 129 weeks versus 104 for controls.
Okay, so let's just couch it there because this is a very deep, extensive scientific video, which I really appreciate, but we don't have time to go through all of it. Essentially, in mice, it increased their lifespan 24%. I mean, this is huge. But I think where this is relevant to us, like neurohackers and biohackers that are interested in functioning well cognitively, is in what it does to your brain. As I said, when I dose liposomal glutathione, which I kind of always have around, again, no affiliation with this company, it's just a good liposomal bioavailable version of glutathione, I feel better. I'm functioning pretty awesomely most of the time, but you kind of get to see where your deficits are when you're working on reducing oxidative stress and enhancing mitochondria. Like I still get, feel better and function better if I take some Alcar, which works on energy transport to the mitochondria of brain cells. So it's like, I think there are a lot of conditions or situations in which people don't function awesomely and they're using nootropics for that. Totally got it. Great. But you could benefit from glutathione because perhaps what's underlying your brain fog and or your fatigue is reactive oxygen species that are damaging the functioning of your mitochondria. We like to not look at this sort of stuff as if it's relevant because we can't see it, we can't measure it, it's not discussed enough, right? Mitochondrial optimization. But it is the case that there are many insults in our kind of modern life, and there are things that we decide to do, like booze increases oxidative stress neurologically. That could facilitate, right, and probably is facilitating crappy brain function in certain people, which is why this is so important. Whether you're using Glynac, 3.5 grams of glycine, call it 3.5 grams of N-acetylcysteine, or double that dose, which is I think what Rich is on. He may even be on more than that. I tried to reach out to him to confirm before this video, but he didn't get back to me. He's probably like in his hyperbaric fucking oxygen chamber or something, doing some biohacking stuff. Whichever dose you end up on, the literature is very clear and people's anecdotals are very clear. This helps brain function. So what's the takeaway here? Takeaway is if you want to look like Rich at 50, take Glynac. No, it's really that glutathione is a very, very important detox chemical that, look, helps you clear drugs from your system, helps you to scavenge free radicals, helps mitochondria function in a way which gives you cognition, almost like a nootropic. All the antioxidants that I've ever taken, including liposomal glutathione, make me feel clearer. It's not a stimulant effect, it's just I have more energy and my brain works better. But again, I mean, it's like, how are you measuring it? Are you measuring glutathione? Do you know over time whether it's been depleted or not? Are you even paying attention to it? Again, back to the COVID study, a good degree of the people that were severely hospitalized with COVID-19, and there's other papers on this that suggest the people that died of it had markedly reduced levels of glutathione. It's just something that you always want to have at high levels. At the very least, be maintaining it, be conscious of it. But ultimately, all of the things that make us feel crappy and make it so that we don't perform well and we have crappy cognition and have brain fog, fatigue, etc., like oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, insulin resistance, endothelial dysfunction, genotoxicity, and crappy cognition, like all of these things can be improved by taking either Glynac or I would wager liposomal glutathione. There are research papers on that, and you should go PubMed them to understand which may be better for you. Some people may not be able to tolerate large degrees of NAC and large quantities of glycine like Rich can, or other people whose physiology is just in a bulletproof place. At which point you're probably going to want to get like a liposomal glutathione. Again, no affiliation, it's just the stuff I use. It almost looks like a beauty product. I don't know. I like it. Tastes kind of funky, but whatever. But do understand that Glynac in reversing markers of aging is a very prominently discussed kind of intervention, biohacking intervention that is taking place right now. It has a great degree of conclusive literature behind it. And if you're suffering from what you think is mitochondrial dysfunction because you've done everything else, biomarkers look good, but you don't have energy and you don't feel great, then maybe this is something to look into. In the meantime, if you want pretty surefire ways to improve brain performance, look, I built 2 very, very high potency nootropic stacks. The first of them is the Cortex stack. I mean, look, 8 years on the market, going on 9 years in the market, like hundreds of thousands of bottles sold. The stuff is very, very powerful. It's a dopamine enhancing nootropic that will give you energy, but also be working on neurogenesis and dopamine receptors in the meantime. You can go buy a bottle of Cortex at livecortex.com or in the description below. Plenty of positive reviews. People really love the stack. And our other stack, Torque, I mean, I can't really say enough positive stuff about it. I built this stack with the intention of it being able to be taken daily, and that's how people use it and love it. We have so many auto ships on Torque because it's just like, if you need predictable, solid, sustainable brain energy that's stimulant-like but not overstimulating, that gives you 5 to 8 hours of clear energy, buy Torque. You can literally buy it right now in the description of this video or at livecortex.com. And as usual, if you need to hire me for consultations, whether it's related to formulating nootropic regimens for you, your TRT protocol, balancing E2 and total task, because that seems to be a marker for confusion out there, energy optimization, interpreting your labs, regimen and analysis and revision, or anything, business, entrepreneurship, sexual dysfunction, host of specialties that I have, you can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. It has been an absolute pleasure discussing Glynac. More to come, because I think there's more research that's going to come out, and there's also more anecdotals that I did not cover, and maybe I'll get Rich on here to talk about his experience with it. I think we're going to do a live stream or something to that effect up and coming, so pay attention to that. If you want to go follow Rich on Facebook, it's just Rich Sheffrin spelled that way. way. Go follow him. He's got a lot of epic content relating to business and even some biohacking stuff. Go follow Rich. Hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you on the next one.